So last time we finished with, I believe it was task number 9, and right now we're actually gonna do the practical example, which is task number 10 for the Intruder section of the Burp suite. Now in task number 10, this is actually a practical example, and I looked over it for about a minute or so before starting this video, and I think this is going to actually really cover up the essence of the Intruder in Burp suite. So we have covered a lot of theory in the last section. It is now past time that we put it all into practice. Let's try to gain access to support portal, support login. This is a fairly typical login portal. Looking at the source code for the form, we can see that there are no protective measures in place. So for example, we have a username form placeholder, so the name is username placeholder, username is required, and then you also have a password which is of type password, so this is an input field placeholder password, and this is also required. So this is a very basic source code or very basic HTML for the source code of login with actually no protective measures, like for example a CSRF token or some measures for rate limit protection and all that kind of stuff. This lack of protective measures means that we could very easily attack this form using a cluster bomb attack for brute force, but there is a much easier option available. Attached to this task is a list of leaked credentials for Bastion hosting employees, which is this one here, download task files, which is what I did, and I actually saved them to my desktop here. This is the combine.txt. These are the emails, the passwords, the usernames, and the combine. So the combine contains, I believe it only contains the usernames and the passwords. Alright, so let me close these off. Alright, and getting back here, Bastion hosting was hit with a cyber attack, and to mention that I'm already connected to the TryHackMe VPN here. The attack resulted in all of their employees' usernames, emails, and plaintext passwords being leaked. Employees were told to change their passwords immediately, however, maybe one or two of them didn't listen. This is often the case. As we have a list of known usernames, each associated with a password, we can avoid a straight brute force and instead use a credential stuffing attack, which is really important. This will be much quicker when using the rate-limited version of Intruder. Fortunately, we don't have a rate-limited version of Intruder here, but we have a professional version of Burp suite, which contains the full-fledged version of Intruder. Now, download and unzip this. It doesn't matter where you do this, blah blah blah. So I've already downloaded and I've showed it to you. The emails, the usernames, the passwords, and the combine. These contain lists of lists of leaked emails, username, passwords, respectively. The last list contains the combined email and password, as I've told you. We will be using the username and password texts. Alright, navigate to support login in your browser. So I have Firefox set up with Burp. So so Firefox is proxying through Burp, and we've seen this. So we have a get to the support login. Let me do that one more time. So click on refresh here. We can see that we send this. We can send this to the repeater. I've already sent it to the repeater, and I can also send this to the Intruder. But first, maybe we need to fill in with something. So for example, it doesn't matter what credentials you use. Activate and try to log in. So let's say log in with John, password Doe. Let's click on login, don't save, invalid username or password. We go back into Burp suite. We can see that there has been a post request, so we can send this to the repeater, and we can just remove our first one if it wants to be removed, right? And I can also send this to the Intruder with Control-I, or right click on it and send to the Intruder. It's already in the Intruder. We can actually do that as completed. Send the request from the proxy by sending it to the intruder, which is what we did. Look into the position subtab. We should see that auto selection for the username and the password. We can already see them there. So we don't need to do anything in terms of defining our positions. That's right. If you have already visited certain other pages on the site, that you might have a session cookie. If so, this will also be selected. We do not have a session cookie here. Now what we need to select is the type of attack, which is pitchfork, right? Then switch over to the payloads subtab. What we should find that we have two payload sets available, of course. So payload set 1, both of these are set for simple lists. In the first payload set, go to payload options. So simple list payload options, choose load and select our list of usernames. So we will be selecting our list of usernames from the desktop. Let's just move up desktop. So usernames, open. All right. Do the same thing for the set of payloads for the list of passwords. Now payload set number 2, these are gonna be the passwords. Open that up. All right. We have done all we need to do for this very simple attack. Click start attack. A warning about the rate limiting that we do not care because we have the full professional version of Burp Suite. So start attack. Attack is completed. Now, when we have most of the status codes are 302, probably most of them, and the length is 674. Now we need to look for something different here. We can either select by the status, double click on the status. All of them are 302, so there's nothing in there. But we can also select by the length, and we can see that the length is not all the same, but there is also a different one here. M. Riviera let me in. So let's see what it says here. Alright, so I've completed this one. Once the attack has completed, we will be presented with a new window giving us the results. Burp sent 100 requests. How are we supposed to know which ones are valid? Exactly what I was saying. The most common solution is to use the status code of the response to differentiate, which is what I did, but this only works if there is a difference. So we've only seen 302. Now, ideally, successful logins would give us 200 response code, but that's not necessarily the case because in a lot of pen tests that I'm doing, I've seen that 302 found, I believe. Yeah, 302 is probably found, so the response is found. This has been a typical scenario which actually redirects you to the dashboard, so it doesn't necessarily need to be a 200 OK response. And fail login request would provide a 401. Sometimes, but not always. However, in many cases, we're just given a 302 redirect for all requests instead. Exactly. The next most common solution is to use the length, which is what I did here. For a successful login attempt may have a response with 400 bytes in it, whereas an unsuccessful with 600 bytes. This is for reference. We can sort by byte length by clicking on the header for the length column, which is what we did. Once we have sorted our results, our request should stand out as being different. As you may have guessed, the request with the shorter response length was made with the valid credentials, a fact we can confirm by attempting to log in with the credentials used in the successful request. So what were the credentials used here? So it was M. Riviera and let me in. So for example, M.Rivera and let me in 1, we can try these. M.Rivera let me in 1, and there we go. So we are in. Let's go back here. These are selected randomly from the list of all from the list at machine boot, and so will be different every time you deploy a new instance of machine. Well done, you have successfully completed the brute force the support login page with credential stuffing attack. So in a nutshell, That was a credential stuffing attack. Really insightful. So a great job done by Maryland Oracle for this task number 10. Now next we're actually going to look into task number 11, which is another practical challenge, and that is actually the subject for the following video. So we've done very good on this one because we've managed to get it in about 10 minutes.